Elira moved quietly through the halls of the Grand Veltari Research Center on Veltari Prime. The soft light from crystal panels shimmered on her pale blue skin, and her long silver hair flowed behind her like liquid moonlight. She was one of the best scientists in her world, known for her sharp mind and gentle spirit. Yet, despite her many talents, Elira carried a heavy burden. She was told she could never have children. In Veltari society, having children was more than just a personal joy. It was a sacred duty. Their long lives and deep connection to the planet made family bonds strong and important. Elira's body, however, was marked by what the healers called a void-born condition, a rare genetic flaw that made her unable to carry life. Many looked at her with pity, and some with quiet judgment. Her heart ached in silence. She had dreamed of holding a child, teaching it about the stars and watching it grow, but those dreams seemed far away, locked behind the doors of biology. One afternoon, as she studied the data from a recent experiment, the room filled with the soft hum of an arriving shuttle. She looked up. The visitor was Elias Trent, a human diplomat who had come from Earth to negotiate new peace talks between their species. Humans were a new presence in the galaxy, known for their courage and strange but creative ways. Elias was different from the other diplomats. He did not carry the usual cold formality. Instead, his dark eyes held warmth and his smile was easy, almost shy. Elira found herself curious about him. Over the next weeks, their meetings became less about politics and more about shared stories. They talked about their homes, their fears, and their hopes. Elias told her about Earth, its blue oceans, vast forests, and the people who lived with passion and drive. Elira shared her work, her love for science, and the pain of being told she was incomplete. They met in quiet gardens beneath artificial stars where human flowers and Veltari luminescent plants grew side by side. Slowly, a bond formed between them, surprising both. Despite their growing closeness, they knew their union was impossible. Veltari laws forbade interspecies marriages except in rare, approved cases, and most Veltari would never accept a human as family. Yet Elias was determined. He saw not her biology or her flaws, but the brilliant mind and kind heart beneath. One evening, under the soft glow of the twin moons, Elias took Elira's hands in his. "I don't care what the council says," he said quietly. "I want to be with you. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Elira's breath caught. For the first time in years, hope bloomed in her chest. They married in a small, secret ceremony on Earth, surrounded by a handful of friends from both worlds. The ceremony was simple, filled with promises to support each other, no matter what. The news was met with shock back home. Some called it a mistake. Others whispered that it was a dangerous experiment. Elira's family was divided. Her mother, a respected elder, pleaded with her to abandon the union. "Our ways are clear," she warned. "You are walking a path with no return." But Elira chose love over fear. She saw in Elias not just a husband, but a partner who could help her challenge the impossible. As the months passed, Elias and Elira lived quietly on a research station orbiting a peaceful planet. They worked together, blending human and Veltari technology in their experiments. Elias learned the delicate art of Veltari medicine, while Elira explored human genetics. Yet even in their happiness, shadows lingered. The council watched. Rumors spread that the void-born woman had married a human and might be risking the future of her people. One day, during a medical scan, Elira was told something no one expected. There might be a chance, just a small one, that she could conceive a child. The news shocked them both. It was a hope too fragile to hold, but they clung to it like a lifeline. Their joy was tempered by fear. They knew the council would not accept such a miracle easily. Yet for the first time in her life, Elira allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the impossible could happen. As they looked out at the stars from their tiny window, Elias whispered, "No matter what, you're not alone." And in that moment, Elira knew her story was about to change forever. After the surprising news from the medical scan, Elira and Elias felt a mix of hope and caution. Elira, who had lived years believing she could never have children, now faced a chance so small it seemed almost like a dream. But Elias was determined to explore every possibility. They began by seeking advice from the best healers and scientists of their worlds. Veltari doctors skilled in biology and genetic science examined Illyra carefully. They ran many tests to understand how her body was reacting, yet none could explain the sudden change in her condition. Some even warned her to stop hoping, saying it might be dangerous to push her body beyond its limits. Meanwhile, human doctors had a different perspective. They were fascinated by Illyra's unique biology. To them, the solution was not just waiting for nature, but using technology. To help, Elias reached out to a human research group on Mars. This group was famous for working on gene therapy, a new science that could change how genes worked inside the body. The idea was to gently rewire parts of Illyra's DNA, allowing her body to accept and support life, even though her Veltari genes made it very difficult. The process was new and risky, but the team believed it was possible. At first, Illyra hesitated. The treatments might harm her, and if they failed, she might lose her remaining health. But Elias's quiet support gave her strength. "We will try together," he said. "No matter the risk, I am with you." The treatment began in the small laboratory of the Mars Research Station. Human scientists used tiny machines that delivered gene therapy directly to Illyra's cells. She felt strange at times, sometimes tired, sometimes hopeful. Her body was changing, slowly but surely. During this time, Elias stayed close. He learned every detail of the treatment, asking questions and encouraging Illyra when she felt weak. Their love grew stronger through the challenge. As weeks passed, the team noticed something incredible. Instead of just accepting the human gene therapy, Illyra's body began to adapt in a new way. It was not just the therapy working, it was as if her biology was evolving. Her cells combined human and Veltari traits in a way no one had seen before. The scientists called it biological fusion. It was a rare and powerful process where two different species genes could merge and create something new. This discovery excited and worried everyone. For Illyra and Elias, it meant hope. But the Veltari Council, watching from a distance, grew uneasy. They had always believed species should remain pure. Mixing biology so deeply was considered dangerous and unnatural. Despite the tension, Illyra and Elias pressed on. They felt they were part of something bigger than themselves. They were creating a new future, one where love and science broke old barriers. Then came the moment that changed everything. During a routine scan, the doctor saw a small, faint sign inside Illyra, a sign of life beginning to grow. The room was silent. No one had expected this so soon. Elias held Illyra's hand tightly, their eyes shining with hope and wonder. "This is more than science," Elias whispered. "It's a miracle." But they knew the journey was far from over. The council would not accept this easily. There were those who already called Illyra's pregnancy a threat to their traditions. The couple decided to keep the news secret for now. They needed time to prepare and protect their child. In their quiet moments together, they talked about the future. What kind of child would grow from two such different species? Would the child be accepted or feared? What challenges would come with a new life like this? Illyra sometimes worried. She feared the pain she might face from her people and the risks to her health. But Elias's love gave her courage. "We will face everything," he said, "because this child is a symbol of hope." Their days filled with careful monitoring and quiet dreams. They watched the stars together, imagining a world where their child could live freely and happily. Outside, the galaxy was changing. New alliances were forming. Old fears remained. But the story of Illyra and Elias was one of courage and belief. They were ready to show the universe that biology was not a limit, but a beginning. After the quiet weeks of treatment and waiting, Illyra felt something new, an unfamiliar warmth deep inside her. It was subtle at first, almost like a gentle glow from within, but it grew stronger each day. Elias noticed the change too. He saw a light in her eyes, a hope that had once been buried beneath years of doubt. The scientists continued their tests, watching with fascination and care. Aelira's body was not simply carrying a child, it was doing something extraordinary. The combination of Veltari and human genetics was creating a new form of life that no one had ever seen before. The scans revealed something incredible, a faint but steady signal coming from Aelira's neural system. It was a sign of growth, but it was also something more. It showed a form of intelligence, a spark of consciousness developing alongside the child. Elias leaned close to Aelira one evening, holding her hand as they watched the stars from the window of their small home on the research station. "Do you feel it?" he asked softly. Aelira nodded. "Something is waking inside me. I don't know what it means yet, but I can feel it. Something new." The feeling filled her with both excitement and fear. Could this child be different from any other? Could it be the beginning of a new future for both species? Their days were filled with cautious hope. The treatment had not harmed Aelira. Instead, it seemed to have helped her body evolve in ways the scientists had only dreamed of. Her cells were blending Veltari and human DNA naturally, forming a unique hybrid pattern. One day, during a detailed scan, the lead scientist, Dr. Kellen, called them to the lab. His face was serious but full of wonder. "Aelira, Elias, what we see is unlike anything in the galaxy. Your child's development is not only stable, but also advanced. The neural signals suggest early intelligence forming. This is beyond biology. It is evolution." Aelira felt tears rise to her eyes. For years, she had accepted a life without children, without hope. Now, she carried something that could change everything. But with hope came new fears. The Veltari Council had already begun to hear rumors about the void-born scientist who was defying nature. The idea of a child born from both Veltari and human genes was a threat to their old beliefs. They saw it as a challenge to tradition and power. Elias stood firm beside Aelira. "We will protect our child," he said, "no matter what the Council decides." Aelira's friends from both species offered support in secret. Some Veltari scientists admired her courage and the breakthrough she represented. Some humans marveled at the miracle born of love and science, but enemies were also waiting. One night, the research station's security system detected an unauthorized approach. Elias and Aelira prepared for possible danger, but the intruders were not soldiers. They were reporters. They had heard the whispers and wanted to know the truth. The story broke across many worlds. The impossible pregnancy of a Veltari scientist and her human husband. The news divided opinion. Some saw it as a new beginning, proof that love and science could overcome limits. Others saw it as unnatural, a warning sign of chaos to come. Aelira and Elias retreated from public view. They focused on the child growing inside Aelira, their symbol of hope and change. Days turned into weeks. The child's development continued at an astonishing rate. The neural signals grew stronger. Aelira began to sense a presence inside her, a tiny consciousness reaching out with curiosity. One night she dreamed of a bright light, a voice gentle and clear. "Mother," it said, "I am here." She woke with tears on her cheeks, holding Elias close. "It is real," she whispered. "Our child is reaching out." Elias smiled, eyes shining. "Then we are not alone in this. We are a family." Together, they prepared for what was to come. Their child was not only a miracle but a bridge between worlds. It would be a new kind of life, one that could change the galaxy's future. Yet the question remained, would the universe accept this new life? Or would fear and old beliefs try to tear it apart? For now, Aelira and Elias held on to hope, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. They knew their journey had only just begun. The news of Aelira's pregnancy spread quickly through the galaxy, like a ripple in a still pond. Some worlds celebrated the possibility of a new kind of life, born from two very different species. But on Veltari Prime, the reaction was much darker. The Veltari High Council, a group of powerful elders who guided their people's future, saw Aelira's pregnancy as a threat. Their laws and traditions had always been clear. Species must remain pure to keep the strength and harmony of their kind. A child born from Veltari and human genes was considered unnatural, dangerous, even forbidden. Council members sent urgent messages demanding Elira return to Veltari Prime for judgment. They wanted her to stop the pregnancy and submit to their rules. But Elira and Elias refused. They believed their child was a symbol of hope, not a curse. "We will not give up our child," Elias told the council's envoy with quiet strength. "This life is a new beginning." The council's anger only grew. They began to send patrol ships to monitor the research station where Elira lived. Rumors of harsh punishments for biological heresy spread among the Veltari people. Fear turned into anger, and some called for Elira and Elias to be arrested. Meanwhile, on Earth and other human colonies, many people stood behind the couple. They saw this as a triumph of love and science over old fears. But even among humans, some worried that such a union could bring unknown dangers. The tension became more than words. One evening, as Elira and Elias were preparing for another medical check, the alarms blared through the station. Outside, ships surrounded them, Veltari patrol vessels with strict orders to capture or disable the station. Elias quickly gathered their closest friends, scientists, defenders, and allies from both species. They worked together to protect the station, activating shields and sending messages to human allies for help. Elira felt a cold fear. This was no longer about science or hope. It was about survival. The Veltari ships broadcast a stern warning. "Surrender the research station and the void-born subject or face force." Elias stood tall. "We will not surrender." The situation was desperate, but the friends refused to give up. Using human and Veltari technology, they managed to send a distress call to the nearest human fleet. Help was coming, but it would take time. Inside the station, Elira focused on her child growing within her. She could feel the tiny presence stronger now than ever. It was as if the child knew what was happening outside and wanted to protect its home. In the days that followed, the station's crew prepared for possible attack. Yet, they also held hope. The unity between humans and Veltari working side by side showed that change was possible, but not everyone was patient. On Veltari Prime, extremist groups rose up. They believed the only way to protect their world was to stop Elira and Elias by force. These groups began to spread fear and violence, targeting those who supported the couple. Back at the station, Elias received a secret message from a Veltari scientist who had left the council. "You are not alone," the message said. "There are others who believe in what you are doing. Hold fast." This small sign of support gave Elira and Elias new strength. They realized their fight was bigger than just one child. It was a battle for acceptance, for the future of two worlds. One night, as the station orbits silently above a distant planet, Elira and Elias stood together looking at the stars. "We are making history," Elias said softly. "But the road ahead will be hard." Elira nodded. "We must protect our child, no matter what comes." Their love was now a beacon, a challenge to old fears and an invitation to a new future. The galaxy was watching. And the story of the void-born woman and her human husband was far from over. The hidden research station floated silently in orbit above the gas giant known as Saturn. Inside, Elira's body was changing more rapidly than anyone had predicted. The child she carried was no ordinary child. It was a new kind of life, a bridge between two species that had never been linked before. Elira could feel the strength growing inside her. Sometimes, in quiet moments, she sensed the child's presence, like a gentle touch, soft but powerful. The scientists around her watched with awe as the child's development exceeded all expectations. Elias stood by her side, filled with pride and hope. He often talked to Elira and the child, as if his words could reach the tiny life inside. "You're going to change the universe," he whispered during one of those quiet evenings, watching the stars flicker beyond the window. The child's unique nature became clearer every day. The bioluminescent skin of the Veltari mother mixed, with hints of human features. Their child's eyes were wide and bright, full of curiosity and intelligence even before birth. The scans showed something extraordinary. The child was beginning to communicate through tiny neural pulses, early thoughts or feelings, a connection beyond normal biology. Dr. Kellen, the lead scientist, explained carefully. This child is more than a hybrid. It is a new form of life, one that can combine the best of both species. Its mind and body are already adapting to the environment around it in ways we don't fully understand. Alira felt a mixture of wonder and responsibility. This child was her legacy, but also a symbol of something much greater. A future where two worlds could come together, not in fear, but in hope. But not everyone saw this future the same way. Back on Veltari Prime, the High Council had not given up. Their anger and fear had only grown stronger. They saw the child as a threat to their traditions and control. The Council ordered a blockade, surrounding the research station with their fleet. Elias and the human fleet responded quickly. What began as a small conflict risked turning into a full-scale war between the two species. The stakes were higher than anyone had imagined. Elira, knowing what was at risk, felt the child stir inside her. It was as if the child understood the danger and was ready to face it. One night, the research station's monitors detected an incoming transmission. A voice, clear and calm, filled the room. It was the child, speaking for the first time. "Do not wish to fight," the voice said, soft but filled with power. "We are the future. We are the hope." The room fell silent. Scientists and soldiers alike stared in awe. This was more than a message, it was a plea for peace. Elias reached for Alira's hand. "Our child is extraordinary," he said. "It has the power to change minds and hearts." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. People listened, some with fear, others with hope. Many began to see the child not as a threat but as a bridge between species. The Council was forced to reconsider. Their blockade loosened, and peace talks began once again. Meanwhile, Alira's pregnancy moved forward. The child grew stronger, showing abilities that amazed even the scientists. It could influence energy fields around it, calming the environment and bringing a sense of peace to those nearby. Elias watched with wonder as their child's unique gifts became clearer. "You are more than our child," he whispered one evening. "You are a gift to the galaxy." Alira smiled, tears in her eyes. "We are ready for whatever comes next." Their home became a place of hope and discovery. People from different worlds came to learn about the child, to understand what it meant for the future. The child's arrival was near, a moment that would change everything. As the day grew closer, Elias and Alira prepared with a mix of excitement and nervousness. They knew their child's birth would be watched by many, and that the challenges ahead were still great. But in their hearts, they believed that love and courage could overcome fear and hatred. Together, they faced the future, ready to welcome the new life that would carry their dreams beyond the stars. The stars outside the research station sparkled like diamonds in the quiet of space. Inside, every person waited with held breath. The time had come. Alira was in labor. She lay in the special medical room, surrounded by both human and Veltari doctors. The room was calm, quiet, and full of soft lights. Elias stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. He whispered gentle words of comfort, though his heart raced faster than ever before. Alira's face was pale, but her eyes were filled with strength. "I'm ready," she said softly. The lead doctor nodded. "Everything is progressing well. The child is strong. So are you." Elias leaned closer and kissed her forehead. "We've come so far. Just a little more now." The birth process was not like a normal human or Veltari birth. The child's hybrid biology made everything more complex. But it was also more beautiful. As the hours passed, Alira's body glowed faintly with a soft silver light. a natural sign of life energy in Veltari mothers. The humans in the room had never seen anything like it. Even the machines showed strange but stable readings. And then it happened. A gentle pulse of energy moved through the room like a warm breeze. The lights flickered, not from power loss, but from something else. Something alive. A soft cry filled the air. The child was born. Everyone stood still. The baby girl, small and glowing faintly with a light purple hue, opened her bright eyes. They were deep silver, almost mirror-like, and seemed to look straight into every soul in the room. "She's beautiful," Elias whispered, tears in his eyes. Elira smiled weakly, her voice full of wonder. "She's perfect." The child's skin had the soft glow of Veltari energy, but her body showed human warmth and shape. Tiny hair, fine and silver, lay gently on her head. Her fingers wrapped around Elira's hand with surprising strength. But what happened next left everyone speechless. As Elira held her daughter close, the baby suddenly looked toward the observation window. Her eyes focused, then glowed for a moment. Outside the station, the stars above Saturn flickered and every ship in orbit paused. No one moved. No systems failed. But for that brief second, it felt as if time had stopped. People across nearby, colonies and space stations felt something deep in their hearts. Calm, hope, and unity. Dr. Kellen checked his instruments and gasped. "Her brain is emitting energy frequencies we've never seen. She connected with every ship in orbit." The news spread instantly. Across both human and Veltari channels, messages rang out. The child is born, and she is not just alive. She is already reaching out. On Veltari Prime, the council heard the news. Some were silent, others were shaken. Even the strongest voices of tradition could not ignore what had happened. "The child did not bring war," one council member said. "She brought peace." Meanwhile, back on the station, Elias held his daughter close as Elira rested. They named her Liara, which meant light between stars in the old Veltari language. Liara looked at her parents with calm eyes, as if she already understood who they were. "She knows," Elira whispered. "She knows us." Days passed, and Liara's presence continued to affect those around her. When she was near, people felt more focused, more peaceful. Machines worked more smoothly. Even sick plants on the station began to recover. It was as if her energy balanced everything. Scientists were amazed. Leaders were curious. But Elias and Elira kept her safe, only allowing a few visitors to meet her in person. Among the first was a Veltari child named Ceylon, whose family had supported Elira in secret. When Ceylon touched Liara's hand, he smiled brightly. "She's not scary," he said. "She feels like the stars." Elias and Elira knew their daughter would grow up different. She was born into conflict, but her very being brought connection. They promised to protect her, not because she was powerful, but because she was still a child. Their child. Outside the station, the world was still watching. Some feared what Liara might become, but others saw what she already was. Hope in living form, and so, under the soft glow of Saturn's rings, with peace slowly growing across old borders, a new chapter in history began. A chapter not of war, but of light. 1 year passed after Liara's birth, and the galaxy was no longer the same. The child who once only cried softly in her mother's arms was now taking her first steps across the floor of the research station. Her tiny feet left glowing footprints that faded after a few seconds. People called it a miracle, but for Elira and Elias, it was simply Liara. She was not only growing fast physically, but mentally too. At just 1 year old, she could already speak simple words in both human standard and the Veltari tongue. Her voice was clear and gentle, and when she laughed, even tired scientists smiled. "She brings light with her," said Dr. Kellen during one of his quiet reports. "Not just physical light, but something deeper. She calms anger. She eases pain. She brings peace." News about Liara spread beyond science reports and quiet diplomatic talks. Her story reached families, workers, soldiers, and teachers across both human and Veltari worlds. People who once feared the unknown now wanted to learn from it. Alira and Elias received messages every day, letters of support, questions from curious children, and even poems from distant planets. One message stood out. A child from Earth wrote, "If Liara can be born from two worlds, maybe we don't have to fight anymore." But peace was never simple. The Veltari Council still held power. While some members had softened, others remained firm. They feared that the child's growing influence would weaken their traditions. A quiet vote was held. Some wanted to take Liara from her parents to raise her under council guidance. When the message reached Elira, she stood silently for a moment. Then she replied with firm words, "My daughter was not born to be a tool. She will not grow in a cage of fear. She was born from love, and love will guide her path." Elias stood beside her, proud. "We will not run, and we will not hide. If they come for her, they will see what true strength looks like." But something unexpected happened. Before the council could act, Liara acted first. She was still a child, but she had abilities no one fully understood. That night she woke from her sleep, stood near the window that faced the stars, and placed her small hand on the glass. The entire station filled with soft light, calm, warm, and endless. Ships in orbit paused. People on nearby moons and space stations looked up and saw it, a glowing symbol written in light, floating above the station. It was not a threat. It was a message. The symbol meant unity in both human and Veltari language. Two old signs woven together to form one new image, a symbol that had never existed before. The message was clear. Liara was not choosing one side. She was inviting both. The council had no choice. That same week, a meeting was called. For the first time in history, human diplomats were invited to speak inside the Veltari Grand Hall. Alira and Elias were asked to attend, and Liara was allowed to be present as a guest. They arrived under the eyes of thousands. Alira held Liara close while Elias walked beside them, proud and calm. One by one, council members stood and spoke. Some warned of danger. Others spoke of faith. Then it was Elira's turn. She spoke clearly and without anger. Liara is not a weapon. She is not a danger. She is a child. But her very existence proves that we can move forward, that our differences don't have to divide us forever. Elias added, "We didn't plan this, we didn't expect it, but we chose to believe in something bigger than fear. We chose love." And then Liara, standing quietly between her parents, reached out and touched the floor with both hands. A soft pulse filled the hall, not loud, not painful, just warmth. And then silence. The Veltari elders who had spoken against the child slowly stood. One of them, the oldest member, walked forward. "I have lived long," he said. "I have seen war, peace, and silence, but I have never felt this kind of peace before." He turned to Liara. "Perhaps the universe is telling us that it is time to begin again." That day a new agreement was signed. It was called the Liara Accord. It promised cooperation between human and Veltari science, education, and exploration. It also protected all future hybrid children, those born between worlds. Back at the research station, Elira and Elias stood together under the stars. Liara played near their feet, humming a soft tune she had learned on her own. "She's just getting started," Elira said with a smile. Elias nodded. "And so is the galaxy." They looked into the stars, no longer as two beings from different worlds, but as a family that had changed history, simply by believing in each other. And, far above them, the stars seemed just a little brighter.